What does it mean for us to claim Christ crucified? This past Palm Sunday, we talked about beginning a journey through what we call Holy Week. The people that welcomed Jesus into Jerusalem would never have foreseen the events we remember today. We can only imagine how distressed they must have felt. Their world has been turned upside down. The one they had come to love had been put to death in the most horrific way. They felt profound pain and sadness. They also felt fear that they could be next because of their association with Jesus. Remember, the people in today's story do not know the rest of the story. They did not know the rest of the story as we do. Today, our community has heard the story of Jesus' crucifixion. And we go about our day now holding this story in our hearts. Today we remember God, our Creator, who became one of us through Jesus, offering us the greatest undeserved gift humanity has ever known, which is God's self. God offered us God's perfect and infinite love to humanity through Jesus the Christ. Today, we bear witness to humanity turning its back on this greatest gift, refusing to open their hearts, their minds to his message of love. As horrible, humiliating, painful, and scandalous as his day was for Jesus, Jesus, trusting in this same love that we turned our back on, was able to see through and past the suffering of the cross. To claim Christ crucified is to claim the perfect love of God for ourselves. Now we can experience the profound love of our Creator who gave all of him or herself for us. And as we learn to trust in this love as Jesus did, we will be able to see through and past our own pain and suffering. And I think today that needs to resonate with all of us. As you get up from where you are, wherever you are on your faith journey, go on with at least this story of perfect love in your hearts. You know, those who gaze upon the crucified long enough with contemplative eyes are always deeply healed of pain, unforgiveness, violence, and victimhood. It demands no theological education, just an inner exchange by receiving the image within ourselves that we have seen today and all it means, then offering our soul back in safe return. It is no surprise that a naked man nailed to a cross is such a deep, archetypical symbol in the Western psyche. It was meant to transform all earthly suffering. It was meant to transform even the suffering that we are going through today. The crucified Jesus offers, at a largely unconscious level, a very compassionate meaning to history. The mystery of the rejection, suffering, passion, and death and resurrection of Jesus is the interpretive key for what history means and what is going on. Without such a universal meaning and soul significance, the agonies and tragedies of humanity feels like Shakespeare's sound and fury signifying nothing. The body can live without food easier than the soul can live without meaning. If all our human crucifixions are leading to some possible resurrection and are not dead-end tragedies, this changes everything. If God is somehow participating in our human suffering instead of just passively tolerating it and observing it, that also changes everything, at least for those who are willing to gaze upon the cross contemplatively. We Christians are given the privilege to name the mystery as the path of descent, the way of the cross, or the paschal mystery. Although we name and symbolize it quite well, we have not lived it much better than many other religions and cultures. All humble, suffering people often learn this by grace. But Jesus today, however, brings it front and center. A crucified God has become the logo and central image of our Christian religion, a dying, bleeding, losing man. If this isn't saying you win by losing, what is it going to take for us to get the message? How often do we have to look at the crucified and miss the point? Why do we choose this as our symbol if we are not going to believe it? Life is about winning by losing. It's about making mistakes. It is losing with grace and letting our losses teach and transform us. And yes, this is Hamas saying that God suffers. And our suffering is also God's suffering, and God's suffering is ours, as we read in Colossians chapter 1, verse 24. That it has the power to transform the human dilemma of tragedy, absurdity, and all unjust suffering, which really is all suffering. So today, as we look upon the cross, as we remember the passion of Jesus, we need to know that the message it shows is that Jesus, God, is in solidarity with all our human suffering. And as we move closer to Easter Day, we see that that suffering and pain can be transformed. That needs to be the message that we give out to the world today. That through our current pain and suffering that we're living through, that we can transform ourselves, transform society, and transform our culture into something better, something more life-giving. Jesus showed us the way. As painful as this human suffering and pain that he endured was, he showed us that at the end, there are new beginnings. There is new life. So for today and tomorrow, let's contemplate on the cross. Let's contemplate on the cross in our own lives. Let's think about all the pain and suffering we have endured individually and as communities. Let's think about it as we journey through this time of self-isolation, journeying through this pandemic. The message that we're being taught by Jesus the Christ is that there is always something new, that all our pain can be transformed. Let us hold on to that hope as we journey toward Easter.